Hello, welcome to another episode of Faith and Geekery. My name is Mark, and tonight we shall be looking at retro tech and toys. And basically, this idea came out of me visiting my dear mothers and realizing how much stuff that over the years that we have accumulated. Don't worry, it's not just me kind of showing off my old tat, but it is just kind of a subject that is kind of close to my heart, and I think friends of mine would know that I often have kind of various technology and bits and pieces lying around. So I'm going to go through a little bit of a curation through some of this kind of stuff, and we'll see how we go. Nobody's joined me at the moment, but I'm sure people will be catching up at some point. Big wave to all those who catch up later on in the week. It would be good to maybe get a sense of when do people kind of tune in the most, and see whether we can kind of adjust to a more of a live audience. But it's great to have you watching at any time. Without further ado, I think I need to start talking about some technology, because that's what I'm here for. But I forgot to mention geeky news. I wonder what geeky stuff that people have been up to this week. Please, when you kind of tune in, just please leave a comment, and we'll see whether we can feature you in the stream at some point. But yes, technology, big passion of mine. I'm going to zoom in first of all. Oh, there we go. I'm going to start off with some of the stuff of my parents' stuff. There's the camera, and these are the cameras. So these are some old kind of style cameras, and my son was just like, "What do you mean it's like a camera?" And really kind of amazed by I just love that kind of mechanics of stuff. Then more of the automated cameras, and I think for me, kind of the technology sort of stuff is a real kind of nostalgia feeling, if we get that. But these were my dad's. I think my mum's or my sister's, I'm not sure. But they the cameras were one thing. Another thing for me is this bad boy here, which is our cine camera, and it still works. So plenty of our childhood memories through that. It's fantastic old technology, and really kind of practical clunky click technology is fantastic. But please be in touch as we are as we gather. What kind of geeky things have you been up to? Can you remember some of the kind of old technology? In fact, I think the lens cap is still on this. I think that's what that is. There we go. I've got a projector somewhere as well, but it's deteriorated, and you will find that a lot of stuff has will be unfortunately not in the best of nick, because that's where we are with technology, and my technology in particular. Cine cameras so far, and these are real exciting nostalgic items. Things from my childhood that I remember. I've also got one of these I'm fairly sure it's a light sensor, but I honestly have no idea how it helps. Earlier on I didn't know how it works, and I've just flipped it open. Tends to help, doesn't it? But any guidance on that would be helpful, because I wouldn't mind using it if it technically still works. But that's some of the practical technology stuff. The stuff that harks back to my childhood of collecting memories and things like this. I think I'm going to have Paul joining me in a moment. Technology has that way of allowing us to tap into, to collect memories, to feature in memories. If we're watching a film or a TV show, it's very easy to reference a time zone, an era, by the technology and stuff that's around it. So it's quite a nice way in. And talking about stuff that brings back memories otherwise, I've got an Acorn Electron here. I may have referenced this a bit of time before, but it's overheat slightly, so it's not very that trustworthy. However, the sound of the keys, it's just fantastic. That for me brings back kind of mid-80s childhood, just that. But I even have an emulation of that sort of stuff if we have time or if people desire. Yeah, kind of technology has that kind of way of just bringing us to a point in time. And I think especially with technology as it's kind of expanded over the last century or so in particular, I think it's very easy to pinpoint kind of life memories and otherwise, and I think that's maybe why I enjoy it so. Again, I think Paul might be joining us. We'll see how he goes. Yeah, I think the technology is also somewhere where you can have fun, you can escape to, explore creatively. So I've got to say, one of these little kind of Pac-Man machines, which annoyingly, I think this was my sister's, because this wasn't the original Pac-Man. This was like a platform version, which was a little bit special. But that was Pac-Land, and yeah, never got to the end of that. It was a little bit challenging. Let's just throw up something on the screen. I mentioned about the Acorn Electron. The game for me that always I come back to would have to be Dungeons. Yeah, I've just found this on an emulator. This has the complete BBC Micro Games archive, which is fantastic. And you basically, it just is just thrown onto the screen as is, and so onto the emulator as is, and so you have to kind of remember everything, including your controls, which, oh yeah, last time I had it included all the characters because I can't remember, foolishly. Yes, let's see where, how people, oh no, left, right, oh that's weird, oh that's really irritating. Let's just come out of that again. I'm going to restart this. There you go, proper old school sound as well. I'm just going to include all the characters because I remember at least one of the characters, how to use them. So, I believe it's Ranger. Oops. And yeah, for me, this game is what I spent many years of my childhood playing. That's that way. That's it. And so basically, this for me was the first of the 1 to 4 player games, and especially with a brother and sister, it was an opportunity to play computer games together without having to wait. It also wound each other up because each of us had our own way of playing, and yeah, you'd have to remember which key went where though, and I actually can't remember where any of these keys went, so this will be fun. Nope. Oops, oh no. Aha. But some of the real frustration was trying to work out who had what key where, because if you go over a key and you already have a key, it replaces that key, and that again is very annoying. But this for me is classic 80s multiplayer computer games, and it was fantastic. But I'm sure you wouldn't want to watch me playing this all the time, but this was just a little flavour of the sort of computer game that the Acorn Electron was known for. And you could, is that the portal at the end? Yep, there you go. And then you would kind of, each person would have, again, seem to be stuck for the keys here. Oops, killing someone else now. Oh, that's really weird. Anyway, I'm not going to bore anybody else with the rest of that. But yeah, it's just an example of how we can kind of tap into nostalgia and old ways of doing, and that's dungeons on the. Paul is more or less set up fantastic, yeah, kind of computer games just have that way of kind of teleporting us back in the same way technology does, and I think it's I like it. I think good evening, Paul. How are you doing?
Hello.
How's things?
I've been struggling with a janky setup to see if I can get the N64 hooked up and working.
Ah, right. And any
Although,
success?
as you may be able to tell if you've seen me blowing into cartridges, it's not been that successful so far.
Oh no. I know. To be honest, I've got my Mega Drive, but I decided not to hook it up. What I have underneath is my PlayStation 3 with the Mega Drive emulator, just because it's easier, because it's got HDMI
definitely.
output. It still has the kind of the all the fun of the games, but more accessible. So, how are you doing, Paul? You right?
I'm pretty good, I think, yeah. Seeing if I've managed to get this to detect it yet, but it doesn't look like it. And I've got to admit, I'm still trying to figure out if I can remember what the different lights on the N64 stand for.
Oh yeah, I don't know actually.
I can't remember if it's working when they flash or if it's not working when they're not flashing.
Yeah, that could be an issue. But what? As I asked everybody every time people are on, what geeky things have you been up to since we last met?
I have, well, as usual, been playing a few games in the evenings.
Fantastic.
Not streaming again at the moment, but.
Is this on your immense Steam library?
I have to admit that this is on my slightly smaller Epic library because it's actually not a very epic library. But there were some games I couldn't get on there.
Ah, right. Yeah.
And sort of retro-y style. I've actually been playing the newest version of MechWarrior.
Oh, cool.
Which I can remember playing in glorious 16-color on an IBM 088. Very, very slowly because the machine wasn't technically powerful enough for it.
Did that give you an advantage, or did it frustrate you more than?
Well, you couldn't really do multiplayer at that point. It's definitely pre-multiplayer, so.
Yeah. Oh, that's quite annoying.
But yeah, it's been quite fun revisiting an old favourite in a modern guise.
Yeah. But I guess for you, technology, you had a part at the Bradford Media Museum, was it?
Yeah, the Science and Media Museum, as it's now called.
Say that again, sorry?
The Science and Media Museum, as it's now called.
Yeah. So you kind of have had a good play on all sorts of things over the years, yeah?
Sadly, not as much for players I'd like. I was the Associate Curator of Television and Broadcasting.
Hang on, so you're telling me that when people go home, they don't just kind of like have a lock-in and turn them all on and have a good old kind of gameplay on all these kind of really fragile and dainty machines?
As much as we wish we did,
yeah.
Sadly not, because they're fragile and dainty and have very old circuit boards.
Yeah, well, and again, I'm completely with you, because that's why this bad boy is not being played more often, because it just overheats. It's fine for about 5 minutes, and then it's just like, not even that actually, 2 minutes.
I've seen its power supply. You're lucky it gets to overheating.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely something that goes wrong with it, and I'm fairly sure it's like dust or a capacitor's gone somewhere. But yeah, it's a bit of a sad day for the Acorn Electron at the moment. But as you may or may not have seen, just to be able to kind of have a go on stuff on emulators is not exactly the same thing, but at least you can have a bit of fun.
Oh yeah.
Have a bit of fun with it.
Some of the Commodore 64 emulators are brilliant. Nintendo aren't so keen on N64 or other proprietary emulators because they don't like anyone messing with their code.
Yeah, is it right that they're trying to retain all the old stuff and kind of buy things up and kind of keep it within their stable, as it were.
Yeah, very much so.
Because I believe they don't actually like it being streamed either.
Not terribly, although I've not seen too many things get completely banned from that.
No. Well, I think my liminal one is still online, so that's good. But yeah, technology I think is. I know that's quite a wide-spreading topic in some respects. If I'm honest, I just didn't know exactly what I could get my hands on this afternoon when I was kind of looking through my boxes to work out exactly what I was going to bring on tonight. And so I kind of went with the tech and toys, because I thought that would be quite a nice little balance of the geeky tech stuff with a bit more exciting bits and pieces and trinkety. But I think for me, and as I've said. You've got an intelligent camera that's following you in places.
Yeah, well, trying to.
Yeah. No, it's good. For me, technology has that ability to kind of directly place you and give you that nostalgic kind of buzz, that kind of feel of just kind of takes you back into a location, a place, and the smell, the sound can just do it. And I guess like quite a lot of things, but I guess these things tend to be around for a lot longer, and I think there may be an issue here about the environmental impact of these sort of things, but kind of they definitely can kind of pinpoint for me like a moment in time, and I quite like that, and the ability to kind of pass that and share that with others as well. So a lot of the stuff that I have tonight I've kind of definitely kind of showed with my kids or with younger adults and pieces like that, teenagers, where they've been fascinated by technology, and you know, the kids nowadays kind of are aware of PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4, but anything before that they're like, what's that, you know, and kind of dragging out the PlayStation, and they're like, well, what number is it? And it's just like, well, 1, you know, the original. What you know, it's just really kind of like it's like baffles them. You know, it's like, what? It's like an old-fashioned. How does it work? So yeah, I kind of definitely. I am aware that I could be seen as hoarding, but I quite like the nostalgia of these sort of things as well. But the latest find from my mum's, I'm going to show on camera, is my Mario watch, which I haven't put a new battery in yet. I'm hoping it still works. But yeah, that was. What was it?
I wasn't going to describe it as hoarding. I was just going to sort of say I'm incredibly jealous.
But that is. But the thing is, my mum does kind of gather an awful lot of things. I'm being nice with how exactly I describe that. She does gather things, and I'm fairly sure it kind of comes down to a point of where I remember as a kid being really upset that she threw some of my toys out. So she threw out my Thundercats layer, which it wasn't the massive one. I don't know if you're kind of used to kind of the massive ones, but so for example. I had the smaller versions of the Thundercats, rather than the very large ones. And I think basically she got rid of the Thundercats layer, and I was so disappointed, and I was really sad and upset. It's like, oh, I didn't think you played with it anymore. I was like, no. So I think after that she was like, well, I'm holding on to this, and it's just like, oh right, that's a Happy Meal toy, Mum, thanks. Not quite the same nostalgia there, Mum. But she has looked after stuff, and it does reflect sometimes a part of her nature of collecting other things too. Let's hold it there. She's not online, so she can't defend herself. So I shall move on quickly. So I started showing some cameras in your absence, and again, my son was quite mesmerised by the nature of some of these, and the fact that you could just take photos once and that'll be it, and you go, yep, that's done. I've taken my, is it 24, 36? You know, and
if you're really lucky, 35.
Yeah. So just the kind of the automatic one, a Practica Sport, which had like an automatic wind-on feature, whereas this one. I sometimes the rolly. I don't even know what the other ones is, but just the fact that you have that clunky click.
Yeah,
it's very nice. So yeah,
I mean, I do the same with this one, but it has a black and white film in it at the moment, and they're expensive, and I'm not wasting it.
no, well, completely nutty. And just the other one for me is the cine camera.
Yeah,
I think a friend wanted to borrow it because they had like a bit of a comeback where especially kind of sporting people would do it. So instead of GoPros, to go for a completely vintage look, to use your kind of your cine camera to capture some. I think it was snowboarding and things like that. So shout out to Andy.
I mean,
he wanted to
that
borrow
was some of the most fun I had, because whilst I was working for the museum, I helped create a handling collection that was mainly old cameras and old cine cameras.
Yeah.
Because funnily enough, they're the things that lots of people donate to museums. Very few people have a 1930s television set for some reason. I can't think why. But the number of these old cameras, and then actually watching people's faces as they start handling them. Older people sort of going, oh, actually, I remember how this works. And if you just mess with this ISO setting on here and turn that switch to there, you'll be able to do this with it. Sort of going, oh, cool, I'll try that later on with my one at home. But kids going, oh, yeah, that's really weird. I think we actually had a really early digital camera. And you've got this tiny 2-inch screen on the back, and managed to dig out a Windows 95 laptop that we could actually connect it up to.
Wow.
Sort of going, oh, that's really, really low quality. Why did anyone want to use that?
Because that's all we had. I'm gonna say, go on.
It was just fun. The number of, I mean, if you go back even further with that, there was, I hope still is, an old Victorian bellows camera in the handling collection that wasn't a collection item, but was sort of pieced together from lots of old ones. And actually being able to show kids that, how you took a photograph of one of those, how the lens actually works, where it projects onto the plate, was really fun. And then trying to get a coherent image onto a sheet of paper or something.
Well, I know that the at Cliff College, when I was in the AV department, they had some is it glass slates, photo kind of etchings or something? And there was like kind of a number of those that were just like, they were like panes of glass but with photos on.
Magic lantern slides.
Yeah, and it was just like, great, what do we do with these? but again, you could feel the kind of the age and the weight of them, and well, definitely the weight of them. But talking about old technology, it's kind of bringing out the old phones as well, and
that'll still work.
Well, I've got to be careful though, because I think one of these is actually the battery's leaked in it. In fact, it's this one. It's deteriorated slightly on the battery pack, so I might need to clear that up. But yeah, that was my very first mobile phone, and I should really recycle it. Again, it's interesting, that kind of awareness of impact of the environment, of how we do things, and and how we kind of have responsibility for these things. But that was my first mobile phone, and a couple of phones later. I went a bit more Matrix-esque. So you remember is it Motorola Razor that they had on Matrix? But various kind of other kind of very. I guess I'm a fan of the clunk click, the mechanics of these sort of things. It kind of it feels more proper. It feels as if it's more meaty.
There's something nicely tactile about it as well.
Yeah, and it's just like funny, just when you have like the kids playing with the tape recorder and things like that, where they're just like, what, what are you going to do? And they press the button really lightly, and you're just like, well, no, you've got to push the mechanism here, so therefore you've actually got to you've got to press it properly rather than just tap it like like a computer button. What are you finding there?
Well, I still have
the
some reason my
you.
camera's decided to move over there. Self-tracking cameras are brilliant until they lose track of you.
Yeah.
I still have my Hobbit cassette tapes.
Oh, very good, very good.
Somewhere there's a Lord of the Rings collection as well. I have no idea if I've got that or one of my brothers does.
Yeah.
Although I am currently lacking a tape player, Tom.
I have a tape player. It's in the boot of the car because it's also still my CD player as well, which I take to various gatherings and otherwise. I thought I actually had. I'm fairly sure lying around here somewhere. I've got really weird kind of. What is it? Opposites Attract. Paula Abdul. Opposites Attract somewhere as a tape, and I have no idea. Well, I know where exactly when I got it, but I have no idea why I still have it. I've not played it in like 20 years. But yeah, I think. As I said a little bit earlier, is that technology has that way of kind of grounding us, and in some respect, it's got ways of capturing like a snapshot, quite literally with cameras, footage, with cine, but it also kind of gives you like an insight into that framework, and just like an old book would, it's just kind of the modern technology kind of progresses. I remember kind of going through my granddad's kind of house and seeing the old Meccano that had kind of rusted away. It kind of gave you a sense of the childhood that kind of my dad had and my uncle had, and I think toys and technology both kind of have that kind of way to tap into the nostalgic and to kind of allow us to reflect and and revisit kind of childhood memories. Pardon?
It's something I always enjoy with it. I actually do have the N64 working, but when I plugged it in a while ago, I was suddenly astounded to remember that I could remember how to hold the world's worst designed game controller, but also I could get into a game and all of the muscle memory is still there.
Oh, very good.
And I've not played any of these games for years. Sort of going, oh, I remember this level. I remember how to do this.
Well, it is interesting, isn't it? Because like playing, I mean, feel free to load something up on the screen if you'd like to. For me, it's the memory that I can still kind of do the Sonic the Hedgehog cheat on the main screen, which is up C, down C, left C, right C, right C, A B C start. I know that it just kind of comes to me on the Game Boy to still be able to do the up and start at the beginning of Tetris, and it adds 10 speeds to your gameplay, because I liked that challenge ridiculously at the time. It does. You're right. It does have that kind of muscle memory, and I think again, I think it's the tangible, the hands-on kind of muscle memory stuff I really like. So feel free to load stuff up, and as I'll continue to. GoldenEye.
Well, you can't not.
Well, you have to do it, really. I've also got my Mask kind of toys as well. Technically, this is my older brother's, but this is again, all of these are a little bit broken. Turns out not lasting long as before, but these kind of turn into flying vehicles, and they used to be able to fire things, and really click, very enjoyable. I was a big fan of Mask at the time, with the little figures as well, who wore masks. Oh, and here you are loading into your dam.
I'm actually hoping I've got the controls set to the ones I remember.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because you had your dynamite. Did you have your dynamite and your watch that triggered it off as well?
Yeah. Let's see. Can I remember how to do this? Okay, I'm on the right controls.
I think they had an idea, didn't they? Where you. In fact, sorry, I'm actually off my screen anymore. I think they had an idea of where the game console controller could kind of accommodate different styles of it. So I don't think the initial idea was that you meant to have hands over all of it in every direction, but then you just needed more and more features, and they still had all the different controls across the controller, and it was just really annoying because you did you did need to kind of get everywhere. Oh my gosh,
I forgot how bad my aim is on this. It's definitely not like keyboard and mouse aim.
Is there an age limit on it? Is there an age restriction on this? Do we need to give a warning out for people who may be watching of younger
I
years?
can't remember if there is particularly. I know it's not a particularly gory game.
Yeah.
Mainly because the graphics couldn't do gore.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, man, yeah, the multiplayer. Going through the vents. I loved. Is it Baron Samedi? The big guy with a white hat.
Yeah.
I
And
loved
of
running
course,
around just as him.
everyone being banned from using Oddjob.
Well, it actually affected your statistics as well. It would tell you how many times you'd played as him. So, but yeah, don't use guns at home, kids. But yeah, I'll tell you what. Whilst you're playing that, I'm going to also bring up. I'm going to just bring up the old Mega Drive. And folks, if you're watching, please do get in touch. What sort of games, what sort of tech you're into, what sort of toys you've been a fan of, and yeah, be in touch. What geeky
This is
stuff
where
have
you
you been
definitely
up
see
to?
the limitations of playing like this.
Say that again.
This is definitely the limitations of not playing on a CRT.
Yeah.
I know there's something there.
Oh yeah. Is someone shooting at you, or you're shooting at
Yeah.
it?
Oh, they're definitely shooting at me.
Yeah. But yeah, again, the games for me can really kind of bring you back and ground you to like a definite time. I definitely remember this kind of year 5, I think, or year 4. Sorry, year. Yeah. And Sonic and Knuckles for me was like it's a present bought for me from a birthday sort of thing, and it's something really look forward to. And so the ability to play this, and again, I think when we kind of talk about games and the way that you can explore other themes, you can kind of, these old-fashioned games, you very rarely had the save options, and I guess by N64 you kind of did, but
well, not particularly. If you fail the mission, you fail the mission.
oh yeah. And so you kind of, that would be it. You wouldn't have a choice. You wouldn't have a chance to kind of go back to do things, and it was much more. It definitely had a much more of a tension, like a much more stress level of playing it. If and the controllers might not be as sensitive as what you would be. I have no idea what I'm doing here. There it is.
Well, I think I've got a fair amount of stick drift on this as well.
Oh no.
It's a very old controller.
But again, this is it, isn't it? Where you kind of, it's the mechanical meeting the tech sort of side of stuff, where it definitely has an impact. It definitely kind of, it can. Oh, I'm going to go through the hoop. Bonus stage. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's that one. That's all right. But this sort of technology just falling through.
Definitely not doing very well here. Can't see anywhere. Can't see them properly.
But I think these kind of sort of games can provide you escapism. They can kind of help with the kind of just making. Oh, which way? That's it. Making different kind of, helping you kind of make sense of stuff, of what it means to be, and in a very real way, especially when you're doing these sort of games, and your life depends on it, sort of thing. It does kind of make you wonder about kind of, or it did for me anyway, about kind of like making your decisions count. And I don't think I got any heavier than that. Oh no, in my life, about kind of my own life, otherwise. But it was just kind of like it taught you to make your actions count, and your actions do have an impact, and they have consequences. And even from the earlier games, you have that kind of choice of, do I do I cheat? Do I gather? Rubbish. Rubbish. No. And again, yes, it just allows you to kind of consider how you do things and how your life has an impact. And I'm not really a big fan of when people sort of say, "Oh, you know, the people are into gaming, so therefore it's about violence." It kind of encourages violence. Actually, it depends if you can kind of cut things off from from fantasy and otherwise. And actually, I think some people may have an issue with violence and kind of enacting stuff on games, but actually, for the majority of people, they won't have an issue with it. They can put it in the this is just a game category, and therefore we don't have to worry about what lasting impact this has on folks.
Yeah, I've always wanted to reenact this scene, but
yeah. Oh, very classic. It's brilliant. I found what now. Which one is this one?
It's one thing I keep coming back to. I play a lot of games now.
Yeah.
But I don't think I always have as much fun as I had playing these games. I never sat and played GoldenEye on my own, even going through the missions. There was always a bunch of us around the TV.
Yeah, I get that. I was always a fan of the multiplayer games, which is why I kind of like the dungeons kind of game, and I think that's because I was eventually one of four, and therefore it kind of it felt as if you were including everybody. And
the N64 was probably the first console I had or gaming experience I had that had the instant gratification of being able to load and play the game.
Yeah.
Playing it on the Commodore 64, you'd hope the tape would load, go out and play football or cricket, come back in, turn the tape over, go back out again. 2 hours later, you might get to play your game. But actually, even when you could just plug it in and turn it on, we still ended up with going out and playing
Phantom Menace. Yeah, you've just I think the way that technology kind of changed your approach to life. Nowadays we're kind of used to it all being go, whereas definitely back then, if you wanted to play a game, you had to be committed to it. Some of you could kind of go out and play and come back and later, but other time especially our Acorn, bless it, it would often, if you knocked the table too much, it would have an impact, and you'd have to maybe start all over again. Oh no, didn't see that cockerel there. But
this was about the only racing game that I was ever any good at.
Well, I was going to say it looks very cool to have.
When I say very good at, I don't actually mean very good at. I could occasionally complete a track.
You were reasonably good at.
I could win on occasion. I suppose I could blame this on impact lag of going through the computer as well, but
oh yeah,
I'd be forcing it, to be honest.
Oh, anyway, I'm going to stop this. Exit game. But yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, some of these old games. But I'm really glad that you've brought up Star Wars Phantom Menace, because we've done a bit of a part, didn't we? Because last week's episode was our big Star Wars special, and we should have done it on May the 4th, shouldn't we?
We really
so I'm glad that there's at least some kind of a little nod towards Star Wars, because what was it? What were we doing? Man, I can't remember what Altered Beast is. It rings a bell. But again, yeah, it's just throws you back to like, oh yeah, no, I'm not going to play that. I remember Alex the Kid as well, but it seems to be completely different to how I remember. I don't know if it's like an Americanized version. Streets of Rage, yeah.
Well,
Crazy.
you're bound to have Echo the Dolphin on there somewhere.
I do, but I never played it.
I never managed to figure out what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's here. I don't know what I'm doing now. But I think, yeah, some of these games though can, again, I was sharing with the kids, and just now, just this evening, I was playing Little Big Planet or Sackboy's Big Adventure,
Yeah.
and just sort of sharing that actually I used to play the games with my dad when he was alive, and so it's really quite. It's the fond memories that you can kind of tap into, and you are creating memories, and it doesn't matter about the technology really, but it's just kind of one way in which you can kind of share experiences, I guess, and I think we're about that as human beings, aren't we? Well, some of us are anyway. I don't even know what I'm doing here. I think that was just a demo. Oh yeah, this is me. I am okay. Have I just died? I don't know what I'm doing there. Have I just? I died. Is that what I did?
Probably. I think it's quite easy to do from memory.
I think I just shot off the. Yep, no idea. Let's. Oh yay! Yeah, I mean,
it's a game.
I mean, it's a bit trippy. I don't exactly know what I'm meant to be doing here. I'm just swimming. It's like the marks on your head look like stars in the sky.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a trippy game.
Yeah, I think I might give up on this in a sec, because this is a little bit. Oh, hang on a sec. Is that not something I can get through? Oh dear. Yeah. Anyway, bit boring. Go through there. I want to go through there. What can I do? Yeah, I'm coming out of that. Because I have no idea what I'm doing. But what I was also going to share is some more toys, and so I might just kind of cut to that.
Yep.
But yeah, that was a PlayStation 3 emulator with the Mega Drive collection, which is very cool. I think for me, again, you just have to bring certain toys out, and they have like a place. So I know this is quite a recent one, really, but a little Buzz Lightyear. I say a little Buzz Lightyear. It's quite big. Courtesy of my older brother. And at one point he used to speak, and then he started to slow down, and then never replaced the batteries because he was starting to go a little bit weird. I've kind of got to mention Transformers. I think that for me is a must. And so this was my kind of Transformer. My older brother had the original 80s version, and by the time I kind of came around, it kind of got to this larger version. So I think this was their kind of redo of Optimus Prime meets I want to say Metropolis. I think that was the large Transformer. And so this was kind of like, hey, let's not just give Metropolis the opportunity to be large. Why do we give Optimus Prime the joy of that as well. And you kind of, oh sorry, I'm not even shot anymore. You kind of, it's all very, yeah. I think this is a little bit of a cheat really, but there you go. That's Optimus Prime as a large figure, which I loved as a kid. There used to be like a little figure that used to go in there, but I lost him. I like all this stuff, you know. It's sad times when you can't really, when they break. But I had a 3-changer Decepticon. Again, my older brother mainly was the Autobot, so I was kind of dumped with being the Decepticons. And this guy still does have like a little figure there that you can put in, and that's either the ape head or the Decepticon baddie head. But he's also like a little tiny robot as well. And so that was again fun when I was maybe 8 or 9. So it was a jet, it became an ape, and it was a normal robot as well. A 3-way changer. But the other things for me were like little rock. I can't remember what they're called. Rock transformers. And that for me, this was very much kind of my childhood robot, especially as kind of it looked like an unassuming stone, which, let's be fair, it always looked like a plastic toy. But there was real nostalgia with this guy and his friend there. So which is this one now you're playing?
This is Shadows of the Empire, which is a game that I've never really managed to get into properly. Because I've always found the first level hopelessly confusing.
Did you play that last? Did you reference that last time?
I did, yes.
Well, the other thing that I referenced last time was Battle Beasts, which is like a derivative of Transformers. It was like a side line. And that for me are these guys here. And me and my older brother, we just loved playing these all the time. And we got quite a few of them. But for many years these have just been in here. So where is it? But again, you know, I still remember, I lost him actually, but that was my very first one, a little ram and a goat. But the goat, unfortunately, I think went into a lawnmower. And I've only got his arm now left on the fox guy. And each one of these figures has a little kind of heat up thing where you put your thumb on it, like the old-fashioned Transformers.
Oh, the stuff that changed colour when you put your hand on it or put your finger on it for any length of time. Yeah,
so these basically had fire, water or log, like wood, and would work like stone. It would work like rock, paper, scissors. But unfortunately, they were quite prone for their arms to come off. So that's the Puma, which is a bit sad. And for many years, and again, used to play these with the Millennium Falcon, things like that. And these, I mean, again, I held on to them thinking, oh, they're going to be worth something. And actually, they never really are. I mean, they're about £2.50 a piece now, I think. It's the going rate for them. But I just love them from my childhood memories, really. And I remember the kind of the characters that I imagined them to be as well. So it was all quite fun. And then I remember also that the very last where was he? I had 2 very last ones, but again, one of my favourite characters, little bat, one hooked bat guy. It's just lots of fab memories. Rhino. And yeah, I think there's a little bit of a concern that they were all kind of weaponised animals, like bionic animals. So like the equivalent of Rocket from Guardians of the Galaxy. Looking forward to when that comes out. But I have also got some of the original guns and things for these, which technically helps the value ever so slightly. But I've also got my Sword of Omens from the other set of of Lino and things like that. Or in fact, and that's the whip from Tigra. Things like that, just keeping them in a safe place because I don't want to lose them. But then, interestingly, I got these. These were my last 2 pair, and by this point, they'd actually changed the technology. So rather than you putting your finger over them, you'd be able to. I don't know if you can see that there.
Yep,
you'd have a flame. You'd have an optical flame that you could look through, or shine up to the light, and you'll be able to see what it would be when that's a flame one. In fact, both of these were flame ones, and yeah, and technically those are actually worth a little bit more because they weren't as popular, and people didn't have those because it was starting to drop out of popularity. But I really enjoyed the Battle Beasts, and I have let my kids play with them as well because again, whilst I'm a little bit kind of careful of looking after things and otherwise, actually I'm more than happy for just them to be enjoyed and for my kids to enjoy them just as the next. But yeah, I guess all these things, none of these things last forever. I have a couple of Scalextric cars as well, from the 24-hour Le Mans set. But the track deteriorated. I packed it all the way in the garage, and over a winter it became very brittle. So it was so gutted that it didn't. But I've still got the cars, and these were really cool for us because these were the first kind of Scalextric cars that we had. But they were also the ones that had the lights and the brakes, and so we would occasionally turn the lights off and watch them for about 5 seconds until they flew off the track. And then had to turn the lights back on again to try and find them. But again, yeah, sorry, as I'm leaning away from the microphone. Again, it's just the old Transformers for me had a lot of nostalgia value. And again, you'll notice again that I'm defaulting to more Decepticons because my older brother always wanted to be the Autobots. So this is, but it's interesting again. The later ones. This is the ones that my son likes because these ones are a bit more thought through. So on their own is a fighter jet and is it anti-aircraft? I don't know, whatever it is, an army tank. But when you put them together, they kind of become one. And they have that kind of clunk click mechanism of being something more than the sum of their parts, which is pretty cool. It was just funny that my boy was sort of saying, "Oh, well, I can I just keep one of them?" And I was like, "Well, no, they kind of come together as a pairing, or otherwise they can't kind of transform." But anyway. Yeah, I just thought I'd want to share that this evening, really. Kind of the toys and the tech, because I think those are the things that I'm most geekiest about, but they kind of tend to be wide-ranging and otherwise. And it's just funny when people chat to me and we're kind of going, "Oh yeah, is that a retro thing?" And I kind of go, "Well, I mean, yes, it is, but it is an original." So for some of the generation, it's OG. It's the I just have looked after this sort of stuff, but I am aware I do need to have a bit of a clear out. So some of my mask stuff, I'm now going to go in. It's really cool. So that was my Lamborghini, and again I think that was from my 9th birthday or 9th Christmas present. It's really cool, but it's broken really, and it does have kind of. I enjoyed it for a time. But again, it's slightly broken. So, and I did like the Lamborghini. I'm fairly sure that it broke quite early on in its life. But this would become an underwater submarine, like that. And that definitely had James Bond vibes. And I guess Mask always was a bit of a nod to Bond. But especially kind of the car that kind of went underwater. This just happens to be white as well. And then the other, oh yeah, feel as if maybe, oh, there we go. This is a helicopter. I've lost the grapple hook from behind it, but it's just good memories. Have you got the hang of that?
Not really, no. You get too used to some of the more modern games with I'm going to call them accurate controls.
Yeah. And that was it, that was the 80s issue and 90s, is that, it's one thing actually knowing how to play the game. The other thing was knowing how to work the controls and get used to the lag and it's like it's interesting kind of playing the original Mario compared to kind of the Super Mario Brothers sort of thing. It's just like, wow, this is so different. And yet it's the same sort of principles and otherwise, but just the way that you can navigate, the way that you kind of your controls are sensitive, the way that gravity works on the games, and all that stuff has been like programmed in, and yeah, it's just like, a lot of respect for the programmers, and I should mention, kind of tonight, for people who do the emulations and things like that. I think that's just fantastic. Big shout to the complete BBC Micro Games archive, bbcmicro.co.uk. Fantastic memories and games and things like that. Folks, people have been a bit quiet online. Do comment if you've been up to anything geeky or if you've got any fond memories. But I think we'll be calling it a night in a couple of minutes. Thank you, Paul, for joining, and thank you very much for sharing a little bit about your gaming. And is there any other game that kind of jumps out at you of a fond memory?
Various ones that I used to really enjoy, say some of the Wing Commander games, which were all hand-drawn pixel art for the original games. Could spend a long time sort of alternating between two of us on those.
Yeah.
Or playing something like Formula 1 where you're both racing against each other, but you have to switch over every few minutes to let the computer take over so the other person can have a go at actually driving. That sort of thing I always found quite fun.
I remember.
Again, I was absolutely useless at it. It was a racing game, and therefore I was off the track more often than on.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because actually, you could definitely, computer games especially, it kind of definitely allowed you to kind of have something in common when the latest games were out on the playground, in around your kind of friend groups. So you could talk about it at school and go, oh yeah, how far did you get on that? Oh, how good are you doing on that? But for me, it was also the kind of, I want to say, communal thing, the kind of the gathering, the social thing of actually going to play, even if it was a one-player game. I remember like playing Tomb Raider. I've got like one of the original games. I rebought it though because I couldn't find it in the end. Kind of Tomb Raider 2, and I remember kind of being with my mate Ben and just kind of playing that into the early hours, and we were kind of wingman for each other. Like, we were kind of looking out, so if one was playing, the other person was looking out, going, oh yeah, we're going to go in that direction, we're going in that direction. But then a little bit later on, it would also be Resident Evil when we were a little bit older, and with my mate Ross, and he would be much better at playing it, so I'd be more than happy to just be sat there chatting to him, enjoying crisps and kind of like, going, quick, there's a zombie, run. And it was that opportunity to gather and to have fun together.
I think we had a bit of an agreement that you play until you die, and then the next person takes over from wherever you were at. It's really frustrating when you're playing with someone who's better at the game than you.
But it's about grace.
It's still
about
fun.
Patience. Yeah.
But I think the whole thing with retro is really interesting, because I was working at the museum when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, and we were actually trying to get a Sony Walkman for the collection. Just after the film came out, the prices shot up. It was almost impossible to get the ones we wanted.
Yeah.
Really interesting seeing what the modern, I'm hoping it was mainly dads going, oh, I remember having one of those, I want one. I strongly suspect there's an element of that. But, the number of kids that were going, oh, that's really cool. It was on this film. We'd love to try that.
Yeah.
And you got the same with Polaroids when I think Polaroid cameras featured on something, and suddenly they came back in a big way.
Yeah, and like it's interesting, isn't it? That vinyl is still, it was popular, well, obviously very popular, and then kind of went away, then came back again. Because I remember the kind of, I guess it was more about kind of DJs and kind of holding on to vinyl and having still been a vinyl section in HMV and other places.
Yeah.
But then kind of again it went away again, and it now feels as if it keeps on just kind of bouncing along, and you get the advances in technology, but at the same time there is that nostalgia, and I think that's what kind of tech can do in a big way. And I think we sometimes can embrace it, sometimes we can get away to get the Acorn Electron, bless them, whilst it is lovely and familiar, it was a pain, and just nudging it, you'd have to start again, and that there's a reason why they're not worth very much, is because they were so unreliable. It's just what it is, really. But again, as soon as they kind of came to ROMs and the cartridges, the technology was much more accessible again. And I think this is it, where we don't kind of enjoy the unaccessible tech because it was inaccessible and therefore it was a pain. I think. But that being said, again, get a good camera, get a good processing and all that kind of malarkey. I get that.
Yeah. Although, again, I've noticed these have really come back. Just following a few websites and suddenly going, oh, actually, loads of people are after, a Pentax 35, the K1000. This is not the camera that I grew up using, because that was for my dad's, and I think he's still got it. But I was very happy to find another one. And actually, just the joy of that little clickiness as you're doing it, and the really solid clunk of the shutter. There's something very satisfying about taking a photograph with this.
No, absolutely.
Even if I'm sitting there going, I've got 27 shots on this film, I'm not going to waste one. And in the same period, I've taken 200 on the digital camera.
Yeah.
But actually, that was the other thing. I've suddenly realised when I'm doing it with film, I'm thinking a lot more about the photos I take.
Well, it's more precious, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
not like the first time I was ever given a film camera, where I think I shot round the road, taking pictures of everything within about 20 minutes.
Well, my dad was into photography, and yet my experience of it, I had one of those like flip over lid ones, really cheap and cheerful. Well, I'm sure they were expensive at the time, but you kind of I went away on a trip and I had kind of, I can't remember, is it 12 or 16, or it felt as if it was not very many. And I think I'd pretty much used half of them on the coach, and I was like, I'll take photos of out the window, and it was just like, wow, this is bad. And kind of getting the photos back, and we're going, there's one that was accessible, but never mind. Well, bless you. I think we're going to call it a night. Thank you for your company, Paul. Thank you for sharing a little bit about your tech and your games. I hope you all the best with the N64. And
it's not going to go away again just yet. I'm going to have a bit of fun with it, I think.
Good. But thank you, folks, for joining us. I should mention that if you want to be part of the chat, you can kind of, to be honest, you can comment on the videos. You can be in touch on Facebook. You can be part of the conversations I'm fairly sure there's the blurb this time, but you can also like, follow and subscribe, as well as have a conversation over Discord or WhatsApp or wherever you feel comfortable. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us, Paul. I'm going to drop you off the screen now. Ciao. And thank you. I hope that's not been too weird and wonderful, but it's just an opportunity to kind of go back and have a bit of a dip into the old and the retro. So I've been Mark. Thank you for joining us tonight, and I guess I'm left. Just leaves me to say, blessed are the geeks.